The Habs have won three in a row now, which the Kraken still have yet to do. Not that that was up for grabs tonight. In fact, the Kraken are now on yet another 4-game or more losing streak. I guess the good news is they do play again tomorrow night, so at least we don't have to sit with it for that long. Plus, if the Habs do catch the Kraken, that only improves their chances of getting Shane right, so that doesn't hurt either. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Kraken lose to the Vancouver Canucks for the third time this season, still having yet to beat their cross-border rival, and also lose for the fourth time in Canada, where they still also have yet to win. First off, though, once again, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who did join for the live stream, and if you didn't join, again, I know I wasn't particularly good at getting a whole bunch of prior notice out for this. I swear I am trying to get better at that. It's just a little bit hard to plan super far in advance with the baby and all that kind of stuff. But regardless, going to try to do better about that in the future. And for anyone who did join tonight, again, thank you very much. And especially thank you because it wasn't for a particularly fun game for Kraken fans at the very least. At least beyond the first period anyway. Coming into tonight, although the Kraken were on a 3-game losing streak, they were coming off of a couple of fairly well-played games against the Jets and Flames. Against the Jets, they got an early 2-0 lead, and although they did kind of fall apart as the game went along, ultimately losing it 5-3, one of those being an empty net goal, they showed a willingness to shoot that we haven't seen a whole lot of this season. And then against the Flames, although they did play much better defensively and Grubauer had one of his best games of the season, that willingness to shoot seemed to completely disappear as they went back to just passing it way too much and trying to be too cute with the puck. Still, although neither one of those games was perfect, the Kraken were competitive in both of them, and although, again, they were on a 3-game losing streak coming into this game, it felt like they were building towards getting back to getting some of those wins. And it still felt that way tonight. At least for the first period, minus the first 11 seconds or so. Why 11 seconds? Well, that's because Vancouver wins the opening faceoff, and they end up dumping the puck into the Kraken end behind the net, where Drieger goes out to play it behind the net, throwing it up along the boards. And quick aside, I thought that this would have been a good opportunity, given how Grubauer played in the last game against the Flames, for him to get a second start in a row and a chance to build off of that good showing that he had against a very good team that's on quite a bit of a hot streak, getting their 10th win in a row tonight. But I guess since these next two games are back-to-back, Drieger was going to get the start in one of the two games regardless, so it might as well be this road game so Grubauer can have the start at home. Plus, Drieger did play pretty well for the Kraken tonight, even if the scoreboard doesn't necessarily obviously reflect that. And these first 11 seconds certainly don't help reflect that either. Again, Drieger pushing the puck up along the boards from behind the net where it's cut off by the Canucks, and pushed back down along the boards behind the net where, once again, it's a Canucks stick that finds it. Drieger is able to get back around the net and back in front of it, but it doesn't really end up mattering as the puck comes out from behind the net, right out in front of the goal to Mott, who puts it right through Drieger and into the net, 11 seconds into the game. As far as Drieger and the Kraken are concerned on this play, they may as well have just not shown up at all for the first 11 seconds for all it ends up mattering, as nobody ends up touching the puck on the Kraken at all, except for Drieger behind the net when he pushes it up along the boards. And I guess there's a pretty good chance McCann probably touched the puck at some point on the faceoff before Vancouver won it. But regardless, Gio misses the puck at least 3 different times in that whole passing play up and down the boards and out in front of the net before it ends up getting in the goal. And Larson also ends up fanning, trying to break up that pass from behind the goal out in front of it to Mott. And so there you have it. Once again, 11 seconds into the game after the opening faceoff, and it's 1-0 Vancouver Canucks. And for the Kraken, this has to be some kind of record for fastest goal given up after an opening faceoff, or just a faceoff in general from center ice. Sure, they've given up a lot of goals right off faceoffs at center ice, but most of those have come in, say, the third period after a goal the Kraken have scored. This one is probably certainly the fastest they've given up to start a game. But hey, things happen, and it's still very early in the game. Obviously, just 11 seconds have gone by, so plenty of time for the Kraken to now get woken up into the game with that early goal and come back and make a game of this, and obviously still plenty of chance to win it. So yeah, that first goal should be a wake-up call, and now the Kraken will really get going, right? Nope, not so much, as over the next couple of minutes, the Kraken continue to pretty much get stepped on by the Canucks. They continue to press to try to add to that lead and even get a couple more shots off on goal. Fortunately, this time Drieger is able to make the stops, and the Kraken don't give up a second goal within the first couple of minutes. Finally, about 3 minutes into the game, the Kraken do get their first real scoring chance of the game when they get a 2-on-1 rush. Johansson has the puck with McCann on the other side. And at the last possible second, right as they approach the net, Johansson feeds a perfect pass, threading the needle between Myers and Demko. And McCann, although he does have a pretty good shot, he doesn't have to do much other than put his stick out as a backboard for this to bounce off of and into the back of the net to tie this game up at 1. So hey, you know what? It may have been a very ugly start to the game. In fact, I think it was probably the worst first 2 minutes of game the Kraken have played all season long. But now with this McCann goal, they can just wipe their hands of those first couple minutes. And now with the scoreboard evened up, get to the rest of the game and make some things happen. And wouldn't you know it, right off the ensuing faceoff, the Kraken get it back into the offensive zone. It's Appleton alone crashing the net, backhand shot, and it's saved by Demko, as the Kraken just get that close to making it 2-1 within the matter of probably less than 10 seconds, as this puck went almost straight at the Vancouver net. Then not long after, Gord gets a very good look of his own, but he puts it right into Demko, so that save is made as well. So Demko coming up with a couple of pretty good saves here early, as the Kraken are clearly pressing to get that 2-1 lead, and even have come back to have an early shot lead as well. I think at one point having a 5-2 lead over the Canucks in shots on goal. Something that would not persist throughout the rest of this game. And really not persist that far through the rest of the first period, as Drieger does have to come up with a couple of pretty big saves on the Kraken net back at the other end, as this gets a little bit more back and forth as we get deeper into the first period, eventually leading to the first power play of the game, which goes in favor of the Seattle Kraken. And it's a Seattle power play that you might be surprised to learn it goes absolutely nowhere. So yeah, it's not actually all that surprising. It's pretty much exactly what we've come to expect from the power play. Just as usual, they get a lot of offensive zone time early on, but don't turn that into any shots on goal, and it ends up getting killed off. Actually, this time, before it can get fully killed off with 9 seconds remaining, the Kraken just end it themselves, as Dunn gets called for interference on Pettersson, preventing Pettersson from getting a free breakaway and a shorthanded chance. But it does mean we get 9 seconds of 4-on-4 time, and then Vancouver will get a power play of their own. And of course, with the penalty being undone, it does mean that that face-off to start the 4-on-4 time is going to come all the way down into the Kraken zone, where, although sloppily, Seattle does end up winning the face-off, and Donskoy gets the puck along the boards. Takes him a little while, a couple of seconds, to really get clean control of the puck, and eventually he's able to lift a rainbowing pass over center ice, and it lands back in the Vancouver end of the ice, where Mark Giordano, of all people, is wide open, picks up the puck, has a breakaway shot, and scores! It's the captain giving the Kraken the 2-1 lead with the shorthanded goal. And yes, it is a shorthanded goal, as Horvat was just stepping out of the box in time to watch Gio pick up the pass in the offensive zone, charge the net, and put it in past Demko. So, I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot he could have done about it, but he was on the ice, so it is going to go down as a shorthanded goal for Gio, the 11th of his career. And, the Canucks pressed late in the period, but that's where the game ends. The Kraken end up winning it 2-1, so a good end to the road trip, and they'll come home trying to finish off this back-to-back with 2 wins in back-to-back days. Well, not quite. Unfortunately, the Kraken did still have to play the next 2 periods, and those don't go so well. It's a rather uneventful start to the second period, and up until 3 minutes in, there really haven't been that many shots on goal, and one of the first few that does happen is a kind of awkward shot on goal with a lot of people in between the shot and the goal itself, but it's a shot from Hamonic that somehow manages to get through Drieger and into the net. Drieger was positioned pretty much perfectly for this, sealing off the post with his leg on the ground and his other leg ready to push off going the other way. I mean, he can't chop it off and put it on the ice as well with how his body's positioned, but somehow this puck takes a weird bounce, and honestly, I don't really know how it sneaks through him, but it gets across the line and into the goal to tie up the game early in the second. Yes, it's a shot that shouldn't be able to get through Drieger, but again, I think this one can probably more be chalked up to just these weird bounces that do happen when you play a sport with a frozen disc of rubber on ice. Either way, though, the bigger problem here is that for the rest of the second period and at least the vast majority of the third, the Kraken get completely steamrolled by the Canucks. I mean, sure, the score only ends up being 5-2, with one of those being an empty net goal at the end, but the only way that it ends up being that close is because Drieger played very well in net for the remainder of the game, save for one of the other goals, but we'll get there. Right after this tying goal goes in for the Canucks, they get a power play with a chance to take the lead, and oh boy, do they try to take the lead on it with a number of chances on goal, really trying to take advantage of this power play, considering their power play has had its struggles this season as well. However, the Kraken are able to kill it off and escape that dangerous opportunity for the Canucks. However, although the Kraken penalty kill did successfully end after those 2 minutes of the power play, you could be forgiven for not realizing that the power play had ended, except for obviously it would be on the scoreboard. But regardless, for the next almost 10 minutes of the game, the Canucks pretty much have their way with the Kraken, pressing in the offensive end for the vast majority of the time, pretty much only taking breaks to change lines here and there. And for the Kraken, they get chances, of course, to change lines as well, but they don't get a shot on goal for over 11 minutes of in-game time. Early on in this period of domination by the Canucks, the Kraken were able to get the puck down into the Vancouver end, where there's an important puck battle along the boards. And I actually ended up having to go back to re-record this in editing because I'd forgotten about this entirely. But what made this so worth going back to talk about is the fact that while there's 6 guys battling for the puck here along the boards, it had already squirted out a while ago, and now it's way over here. Hamonic, who's one of, if not the only player at the time that the puck squirts out of that puck battle to notice that it was down along the boards behind the net, has it and is now starting a 2-on-2 chance going the other way for Vancouver. And it really is a true 2-on-2 as, once again, all 6 of the other players are still battling for a non-existent puck along the boards. And the only reason this is a 2-on-2 and not a 2-on-1 is because one of the Kraken players, who may very well have been along the boards with everyone else, had gone off for a change, so McCann's now out on the ice thinking, wait, what did I get myself into? Guys, it's over here. The 2 Canucks players are able to get off a couple of pretty good passes, getting one to the net and a very good chance on goal that Drieger is able to fortunately come up with the save on, in spite of some pretty soft defense from McCann and Dunn. But again, the puck is already well into the Kraken end of the ice before any of those other 6 players down in the corner in the Vancouver end realize that they don't still have it pressed up along the boards. And it's not like there weren't clues that the puck wasn't still in the Vancouver end. For one, there's obviously no puck, so none of these guys can have eyes on it. And on top of that, the other person other than Hamonic who sees it squirt out of that puck battle early on is the ref who it ends up going past, who immediately points to the puck and starts yelling, "Puck's free, puck's free." But even in spite of the fact that he ends up having to skate into that puck battle and physically break it up while still yelling at them that the puck has gotten free of the puck battle, they'd all done their own research and had determined that the puck was still there, even though it very clearly wasn't. Even these fans here up along the boards, who normally might be banging on the glass with a puck battle happening right in front of them, are still in their seats, confused, trying to figure out what the heck's going on. I mean, just look at the Vancouver fan here in the white jersey. He's already looking over everyone's heads out to Hamonic on the other end of the ice, who's carrying the puck out of the Vancouver end. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've got one dude investigating with his phone, and then at the end of the aisle, the guy with the glasses and gray jacket earlier on watched the puck go along the boards down past the referee, and now is looking back at the scrum like, okay, so what are these guys doing still? And as for an answer to that question of what they're doing, well, they're currently fighting over an invisible puck. Again, fortunately, thanks to Drieger, the Kraken do survive this whole situation without giving up a pretty embarrassing goal that would have been on highlight or blooper reels for years and years to come. Situations like this have happened rarely on occasion throughout the history of hockey, even sometimes with goals getting scored. Patrick Kane scored a cup-winning goal without anybody else on the ice, including the officials, noticing that the puck had gone in. At least not until replay showed that that is what had happened. And even earlier this season, Ottawa was scored on by Buffalo in a one-on-one situation as everybody else on the ice was in the middle of a fight up along the benches. But still, even though Vancouver doesn't score on this, I think we'll be seeing this throughout the rest of this season and even into the offseason, as it was a pretty funny situation, especially with it being a puck battle and not a fight that was distracting everybody else. Or maybe I should say a non-puck battle. Eventually, the Kraken are able to at least slow down the Vancouver momentum after a very significant time of them just having their way with Seattle, and they do get at least one shot off on net to break up that shotless streak. But at the other end of the ice, it doesn't end up mattering, as finally a weird rebound that I think goes off the side of the net instead of hitting Drieger's foot goes out in front of the net, where Drieger isn't able to find where it's gone. And by the time he does figure out where the puck is rebounded out to, it's into the back of the net off of Colvin's stick, and it's now 3-2 Canucks as they are able to take the lead. Now, yes, this one only does end up getting in past Drieger because he isn't able to track a rebound that goes out in front of the net while he's still sealing off the post from where the shot came from in the first place. So there's a lot of empty net to shoot at. But at this point in the game, the Kraken have just 11 shots to the Vancouver 31, as we're still a few minutes away from the end of the second period. So again, yes, the goals that Drieger has allowed in are all ones you might like to see him stop, even with the unfortunate bounce through the legs on the second one. But still, there's been now 31 shots on goal, so I mean, he's been doing a lot of work there, and eventually pucks are going to find their way into the net. Now, the Kraken do get a second power play right after this goal to take the lead by the Canucks, but again, it's a power play that doesn't really go much of anywhere. They are a little bit quicker at passing the puck around, which is a good sign, and they even get one, maybe even two shots off on goal before once again getting called for a penalty against them that finishes the power play early, a few seconds of 4-on-4 time, and right into another Canucks power play. However, just like last time, as that Canucks power play starts, or more accurately, as the 4-on-4 time is finishing, Donskoy almost gets on a breakaway with a chance to score, but the puck just bounces around a little bit too much for him to be able to handle, and he doesn't end up getting a clean shot off. So the Canucks are able to dodge this bullet, but it could have been a pretty interesting double shorthanded goal game for the Kraken. With just a few seconds left of power play time for the Canucks before the end of the second period, the Kraken are able to prevent really much of anything getting going for the Canucks. And so we do get to the end of the second period with the Canucks still having a lead, and the Kraken, even though they got dominated in the second, still with a decent chance to come back and win this game in the third. However, with the Canucks starting with a power play, or at least a minute left of power play to start the third, they are quickly into the offensive zone and very quickly into the back of the net with the power play goal, and it's now 4-2 Canucks. With this fourth goal, I'm really not going to put this one on Drieger whatsoever. It does end up going off of his shoulder and into the top corner of the net, so he almost is able to make the save. But really, it's just a nice power play goal off of a good pass by Miller out to Horvat and a dangerous chance where he's able to get a pretty clean shot off while in the middle of three Kraken players. So if I'm going to put this goal on anybody in the Kraken, it's going to be the PK team who, again, if you're going to let a player like Horvat get into the middle of three of you and get a clean shot off, yeah, you're not going to blame the goaltender on that one. And from there, I guess it's a kind of back and forth period the rest of the way, though it's largely uneventful. I mean, you know the final score, and you know that the only other goal that's scored in this game is an empty netter that is scored not too long after Drieger ends up getting pulled with 2 minutes left. So the Canucks do end up winning this one 5-2. The Kraken still yet to beat their cross-border rival in 3 attempts. Their final one will come towards the end of the season at the end of April. And they also still have yet to win north of the border in general. But again, at least they'll get a chance to win south of the border back at home in Seattle tomorrow night, or I guess tonight, a couple hours after this video comes out. So hopefully they're able to pull that off against the Islanders, who, to be fair, is the only team they've shut out to this point in the history of the franchise. Past that, really the only thing I can think of worth noting in this game, and maybe I'm wrong, feel free to let me know down in the comment section if I forgot anything that you think was worth noting. But again, the only other thing that I could think of worth mentioning in this game is that the Canucks did bring out Nadia Popovici, the woman Kraken fan who earlier on in the season, starting in the first game the Kraken played against the Canucks way back at the start of the season, saved the life of one of the equipment guys on the Canucks team by pointing out the mole on the back of his neck. Oh, and of course there's also the fact that Canucks fans are still doing the Bruce there it is chant, a chant which is passionately hated by the man who it's about. But again, Canucks fans continue doing it because why would they care? I mean, I guess fun is fun, so what the heck, let them go for it. Other than that, if you have made it to this point, thanks very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel. And until next time, which will be tomorrow, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and go Kraken.